This is where it happened. And the two of you hid back there and waited for it to clear, and then you sneaked down and drove into town. Is that it? And then, you were his girl, huh? Oh, what happened to you? What happened to you? Did he ditch you? Oh, and Judy, with all of his wife's money and all that freedom and that power, and he ditched you. What a shame. And he knew he was safe. He knew you couldn't talk. Did he give you anything?
Yes, the money.
And the necklace. Carlotta's necklace. There was where you made your mistake, Judy. You shouldn't keep souvenirs of a killing. You shouldn't have been... You shouldn't have been that sentimental.
I've always wondered if real killers keep things, trinkets, for sentimental values. Oh, right. Skin. That's one thing one guy kept. Everybody, and welcome to the Cinema Psych Podcast, a podcast where psychology meets film. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swan, and in this episode, we are going to dolly zoom our way into 1958's Vertigo, Alfred Hitchcock, and what many consider to be, especially in the last, 30 to 40 years, his masterpiece. In fact, my little masterpiece poster, 100 masterpieces, films, of course. This is the Hitchcock entry. I've, of course, scratched it off. I recently scratched it off because I first saw this film last year, and I posted about it on Letterboxd. I left my review, and I thought it was pretty good. I can't remember exactly what I put. I'm not going to go look at my Letterboxd right now to find that out, but I thought it was pretty good, and I left a little bit of a review. Well, tonight's guest saw that review and reached out to me to give his angle on the film and its portrayal of psych concepts, hence the nature of this show. And I was very intrigued, so I reached back out to him a couple of months after that and asked if he wanted to be on the podcast. Not a psychologist, but a film studies professor at a college in Florida. We'll introduce him in just a little bit. And he agreed. And so here we are. And we're going to be talking about Vertigo. Vertigo. Again, 1958, many consider to be Hitchcock's masterpiece. Of all of the Hitchcock films that I've seen, of course, the mainstream ones like Psycho and this one, I think being his two most famous, maybe a few more like Spellbound. Of the ones that I have seen, and I will be honest and say that I have missed a lot of Hitchcock in my life, missed quite a bit. I would say it ranks number 2 for me after his follow-up, North by Northwest. And I don't know if it's a Philadelphia Story in me or that I like Cary Grant just a smidge better than James Stewart. I know that's probably blasphemous. Don't get me wrong, I love me some Jimmy Stewart, but I do like Cary Grant's character and the plot of North by Northwest just a little bit more, and that one came out a year after Vertigo. Again, Vertigo is the masterpiece, so we have a lot to live up to when we discuss this. So in addition to Alfred Hitchcock being the director of this film, the writers are Alec Kopp, Samuel A. Taylor, and Pierre Boileau. It was an adapted screenplay of a 1954, so of a novel that only came out 4 years prior to this film. Hitchcock could really turn around a film. I mean, imagine doing a film a year. This guy was phenomenal. But in any case, the 1954 novel that this was based on was D'entre les morts. That's probably terrible French, but From Among the Dead by Lo Narcissac. Probably butchered that as well. So that's why Boileau is given screenwriting credit, but the screenplay was written by Koppel and Taylor. The film stars, as I mentioned already, James Stewart as a former San Francisco police detective. And I gotta say, in addition to the human characters in this movie, San Francisco is a character in and of itself. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock, I was reading some trivia. He has said that he wanted to make a movie set in San Francisco because he loved a certain restaurant. Every time he went to San Francisco to visit, to just, hang out, he would go to this restaurant and he loved it. So San Francisco and the surrounding Northern California area, I think, act as a character. In any case, Stewart plays a former SFPD detective, and former because the intro scene is the instigating event for his character's acrophobia, which has the hallmark symptom of the title of the film, The Vertigo. And the shots used for Vertigo were sort of groundbreaking. I also read that the second unit cinematographer came up with this dolly zoom apparatus by using a staircase model, but having it horizontal, and then using the dolly zoom effect. So that was sort of introduced in this film. There is some debate on whether or not there's another film that came out a few years prior is the originator of the Vertigo effect. But in any case, it's called the Vertigo effect or the dolly zoom for reasons. And that reason is that it was used as an in-camera effect in this film several times. Of course, looking down at the ground, even though the ground wasn't actually at the end of the camera. It was obvious, like I said, the staircase effect was horizontal, so they could get that right. The other main character in this movie is played by Kim Novak. And one of the criticisms at the time, the contemporaneous criticisms of the film at the time, so 1958, was that the mystery itself was pretty lame. And it was, as far as I was reading on, like, if you go on Wikipedia, that when you look at films, it has sort of the same structure for all of the entries. And of course, the critics' reaction was like paper thin mystery that solved about halfway through the runtime. And so then what are you doing? Then it's not really a mystery. It's more than that. And I think our discussion today is really going to get to the heart of the more than that aspect. It doesn't matter that it's a paper thin mystery. It doesn't matter that James Stewart's character of Scotty, John Scotty Ferguson, is an okay detective and that he figures it out. I mean, you would want a private investigator / former detective to be able to figure out a mystery like this. It doesn't seem like it's that hard. Other actors that are in this film with speaking roles. Tom Helmore plays Gavin Elster, a former college friend or buddy of Scotty. Asks him to be a PI in following his wife and figuring out what's going on. He thinks that the wife is possessed by the spirit of a great-grandmother or whatever. Barbara Bell Geddes plays Midge, or Marjorie Wood, a friend of Scotty's with unrequited love for him. And I feel like she gets short shrift in this film. And it's my major hang up with her characterization and sort of the major criticism being that this film does not pass the Bechdel test. The women only talk to Scotty, basically. And then a few other people. Alfred Hitchcock makes his customary cameo appearance as a passerby in front of Gavin Elster's shipyard, and he's carrying a trumpet case. I love it. It's fun. Kim Novak plays two people in this movie. She plays a character by the name of Madeline Elster. Now, Madeline is a real name of Gavin's wife, but we learn, like I said, halfway through the movie, and of course, spoiler alerts here, the mystery's paper thin, that not actually the real Madeline Elster. That person was murdered. And so Kim Novak plays a version of Madeline Elster and does this fake possession thing to sort of gives Scotty the runaround so they can like trick him into a suicide jump. But he finds out that this person's real name is Judy Barton, and she's from Salina, Kansas. He thinks she got a striking resemblance to this Madeline Elster that he came to know and fell in love with. And now he fell in love with Judy. It's honestly really creepy the way in which this obsession plays out. And we're going to discuss the role of obsession and all the many things associated with Alfred Hitchcock's obsession with Freudian theory and how that would play out in artistic expression in films like this, in films like Strangers on a Train, in films like Psycho, right? So how that kind of stuff plays out. So let's go ahead and jump into that stretched out staircase and talk Vertigo. My guest host today is Daniel Kieckhefer. Daniel teaches film at Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida. He's the author of Secrets of Cinema, 100 Movies That Are Not What They Seem. And since 2023, he's been analyzing films on his website, thecinematograph.com. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Alex. Thank you for having me.
You bet. I'm happy to have you on. I gave the listeners a little bit of a snippet about our back and forth letterboxed and then email. But before we talk about the film, I just want to, as a fellow college instructor, but not in psychology, how's your semester going? What are you looking forward to this semester? And what courses within the film studies program at Flagler are you teaching?
Well, I'm teaching two,
Okay.
film history, which is basic,
Mm-hmm.
and media aesthetics,
Ooh.
which is somewhat vaguely defined course. It's been taught very differently by different teachers, and both the terms media and aesthetics are so broad that
Yeah.
you can do what you want, almost do what you want with this class. And they've given me the freedom to do that.
So what do you plan on talking about in that class?
Well, I have made it a film class,
Mm-hmm.
unlike some other teachers. I'm giving them a tour of the philosophy of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the basic ideas that I am introducing to the students are structure and ambiguity.
Okay.
How a film can speak through its structure.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see some of that in Vertigo.
Yeah.
And also how the ambiguity of a film, which is, I think, necessary to any good film,
Mm-hmm.
gives the audience room to see it differently, even to
yeah.
see it differently on different viewings,
Mm-hmm.
but also allows the film to make a point without forcing the viewer.
Right. That's great because the last episode of the show, I had a filmmaker on, an independent filmmaker, and the film that we were talking about that he had just released is absolutely, especially in that ambiguity portion. I was just talking to him for an hour going like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And not a psychologist. He did get his bachelor's degree in psychology, but, decided to go a different path. And he let his film be open to interpretation. I really like that. That's very cool. Do you have any specific films other than Vertigo that you plan on dropping into the students' minds? I'm sure many of them haven't seen a lot of what you're going to discuss.
I rarely show films that students have seen.
Yes.
Next week, I'm going to show All About Eve.
Okay. Perfect.
And I'll be showing a Japanese film called Ornamental Hairpin.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that one.
I will show, In the Mood for Love
Okay.
by
Excellent.
Wong Kar-wai.
Mm-hmm.
I will show,
What's the most recent film on your film list? Let's say that.
let's see. I think it might be In the Mood for Love.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, a recent film is anything made after I was born. So anything from the 70s forward. But the students don't really see it that way.
No, they don't. They absolutely don't. And so more power to you. I hope they enjoy it. I hope it expands their minds, though. Any sort of you just got started with the semester, correct?
That's right. I've only had 2 sessions so far.
2 sessions. And when you do film history, do you start at the very beginning?
Yeah. I showed them a couple of the early shorts by the Lumiere brothers.
Okay, very good.
And Georges Méliès.
Mm-hmm.
Then I took them to, today we saw The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. That takes me all the way back to my film history class 2 decades ago.
That is a psychological film.
Yes. Oh, it is so good. If only it was not a great film for using clips of in this medium for sure. I've thought about talking about silent films, but there would be no instance where I can insert clips from the movie. I did a Knives Out Rashomon pairing at the beginning of this podcast run, and I only included clips of Knives Out in the episode because could not really include the clips of Rashomon because it would have been in Japanese. So yeah, some limitations to this medium. Limitations. Yeah. But yeah, that would Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is so good.
Mozart. Wolfgang Amadeus. I had a long talk with a lady in musical therapy, Johnny, and she says that Mozart's the boy for you. The broom that sweeps the cobwebs away. Well, that's what the lady said. You know, it's wonderful how they have it all taped now, John. They have music for dipsomaniacs, and music for melancholiacs, and music for hypochondriacs. I don't know what would happen if somebody got their files mixed up. I brought a lot of other things, and you can see what you like. It shuts off automatically. Oh, Johnny, please try. Try, Johnny. You're not lost. Mother's here. Time? Okay. I'll be in again, John. You want me to shut that off? Nurse, could I see the doctor for a moment?
Doctor, Miss Wood. Won't you go in, please?
Yes, Miss Wood.
Doctor, how long is it going to take you to pull him out of this?
Well, it's hard to say. At least 6 months, perhaps a year. It really could depend on him.
He won't talk.
No. He's suffering from acute melancholia, together with a guilt complex. He blames himself for what happened to the woman. We know little of what went on before.
Well, I can give you one thing. He was in love with her.
Oh, that does complicate the problem, doesn't it?
And I can give you another complication. He still is. And you want to know something, Doctor? I don't think Mozart's going to help at all.
Let's go ahead and pivot to this episode's discussion. Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, 1958, widely considered to be a masterpiece of his. And so, Daniel, what do you think about the film in general from a film professor, from a film studies professor? What would you consider to be good about the movie, mediocre, bad, whatever you'd like to say about this film? How would you rate it and why?
Well, it's hard for me to look at Vertigo with a newcomer's vantage point because it's so long since I first watched it. I was a kid. My parents took me to see it when it was revived in the theaters. I still appreciate it for its plot, for its acting, for the twists. All those things still send a chill through me when I watch it. I don't know. The plot is strong enough that it still works after I've seen it 15 times now.
Okay.
And that might not sound like that much for a film that's been so important to me, but what can I say? The film is Hitchcock was not only a great communicator of ideas, but also he knew how to play with the audience, and he knew how to keep them, he knew how to keep an audience, and he knew how to win them over. It's strange that Vertigo was not really accepted on its release. It was unlike Hitchcock. Hitchcock didn't do strange love stories. He had love stories, yes, but not the kind of otherworldly, almost ghostly stories that Vertigo is.
Yeah, I read one reviewer commented that it was a paper thin mystery. Like, I'm putting more words into that, but like a mystery that was kind of boring that you could figure out relatively easily halfway through, right?
Right.
And so yeah, I get what the reviewers at the time were saying, but something shifted. Why do you think the attitude toward it shifted?
The film was unavailable for, I think, a couple of decades.
Wow, okay.
Until from 58, after its release, until the early 80s, I believe, or maybe late 80s. And that probably built a mystique around it.
Okay.
It's common in my experience, at least for a film, to worm its way into my psyche after seeing it. And if it's good, it'll do that. And that probably happened with a number of people. I can't speak for them, but I imagine that something about it just stood out.
Okay. And then when it was made available again in the 80s, sort of a different set of eyes, so to speak.
Right.
Okay. And that sort of changed. It was I was reading, it was one of the first 25 films registered for significance, cultural and aesthetic, by the Library of Congress when they instituted their film registry. So a lot changed A lot changed in 30 years.
And it's fascinating to chart its rise in the Sight and Sound survey. Sight and Sound is a British magazine. Every 10 years, the years ending with 2, they do a survey of film critics worldwide. And that survey is the most widely accepted barometer for critical opinion.
Okay.
And for 5 decades in a row, Citizen Kane topped the list.
Yep.
Finally, in 2012, Vertigo moved into the first spot.
Wow. That's surprising considering the longevity of a film like Citizen Kane. It's older, right? It's funny when you bring that up, and Orson Welles did not like Vertigo in 1958. He was not a fan of it. And to be topped just, 14 years ago? And I'm sure in the 2022 survey, it was still on top?
Actually, no, it slipped to number 2.
Oh, what took its place?
It was a shock to everybody, a film called Jean Dielman, a Belgian film.
Oh.
You could say a feminist film.
Okay.
3 hours of a woman doing housework.
Gotcha. And that was the number 1 film. Interesting.
Yes. It really was a shock.
Okay, well, I guess we'll have to wait till 2032, right? Oh my goodness. Let's stay on acting for a second. Of course, by the time this movie came out, James Stewart was a household name and had been for 2 decades already, maybe slightly more, right?
Yes.
So what did you think of Stewart's portrayal of Scotty in this movie? And maybe compare, if you want, compare to some of his other performances.
Well, Hitchcock used James Stewart for his all-American persona. He wanted somebody who would represent the ordinary American man. And it's a kind of counterpoint to what he wanted to do with the character, because he's really the villain of the story.
Oh, yeah. He's a very creepy dude.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wanted the audience to maybe not to feel they are forced to see him as a villain.
Okay. I see. So sort of playing that dual role. It's like, he's Jimmy. Everybody loves Jimmy. But he's also like this crazed lunatic for a majority of this movie. And I was just watching a clip to see, because I typically do take a clip and do just a funny little bumper before the intro music. And I saw the dream again, and I was like, let me see if I could do something funny about that. And there's no dialogue during the dream, but the visuals of Stewart's face in many of those shots during the nightmare sequence, you're just like, you're aghast at the kind of contortions that he makes for some of those just head only shots. It's very, very, very disconcerting.
I wonder what he thought of that.
Dude, Stewart?
Yes, I wonder.
Yeah, the crazy thing is he lived in Southern California, and my grandparents went to the same like lodge that he did in Studio City, like just sort of like a loungy. It was called the Sportsman's Lodge. It's this loungy lodge, and from all accounts, they never really like interacted with him or anything like that. But by all accounts, he was like a very down to earth, really nice guy, especially in his, retirement years and not acting anymore and just like hanging out in LA, just doing his thing. And so, yeah, I wonder if he did think that would actually give him nightmares. My last question on the film, and then we'll jump into the meat and potatoes. So in the intro, and I'm gonna get your take on this as a film studies person. I rate this, of the Hitchcock films that I've seen, and I have not seen his entire filmography. I will be honest with that. I'm not, as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, there was an aspect of availability. More films are available now that streaming is a thing, and I'm just sort of catching up. I only saw Vertigo for the first time last year, but I rate North by Northwest higher in my Hitchcock films that I've seen. So number 1 is North by Northwest, and number 2 is Vertigo. At this present time, number 3 is Psycho. And then I did also watch Strangers on a Train for the first time last year as well, and that's my number 4. I don't know what else I've seen, but in any case, what do you make of somebody putting Vertigo lower on their lists?
Well, there's so many ways to rank films, and you have to weigh the purpose of the film against its value as entertainment.
Yeah.
I could imagine putting North by Northwest higher because it's such an entertaining film, whereas Vertigo you have to work with.
Yes.
You don't have to, but to get a full appreciation, I think you do.
Yeah.
I don't think North by Northwest is as serious of a film as Vertigo. Hitchcock relaxed a little bit after making Vertigo, and
yeah, okay.
he made North by Northwest, which is somewhat of a comedy.
Yes, I think maybe that's why I'm taken to it a little bit more. Yeah, because it's got some of the goofy elements with the whodunit or the mistaken identity, etc.
And he did another 180 after North by Northwest and made Psycho, which I will argue later on is a remake of Vertigo.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm interested to see and hear what you have to say.
That's not it. Nothing like it.
But you said gray, sir.
Now, look, I just want an ordinary, simple gray suit.
But I like that one, Scotty.
No, it's not right.
The gentleman seems to know what he wants. All right, we'll find it.
Scotty, what are you doing?
I'm trying to buy you a suit.
But I love the second one she wore. And this one, it's beautiful.
No, they're none of them right.
Oh, I think I know the suit you mean. We had it some time ago. Let me go and see. We may still have that model.
Thank you.
You're looking for the suit that she wore for me. You want me to be dressed like her.
Judy, I just want you to look nice. I know the kind of a suit that'll look well on you.
No, I won't do it.
Judy, it can't make that much difference to you. I just want to see what
No, I don't want any clothes. I don't want anything. I want to get out of here.
Judy, do this for me.
Here we are.
Yes, that's it.
I thought so.
I don't like it.
Now, we'll take it. Will the thing fit?
Well, yes, it might need some slight alterations, but it's Madam's size. All right, dear. We'll have it for you to try on in a moment.
How long will the alterations take?
Well,
May we have it by tonight?
if it's absolutely necessary.
Yes, it is. Now, we'd like to look at a dinner dress, an evening dress, short, black with long sleeves and a kind of a square neck.
Scotty.
I certainly do know what you want, sir. I'll see what we have.
All right, that's it. Do you have them in brown? Yes, we have. Fine. Here, Judy, drink this straight down. It's like medicine.
Why are you doing this? What good will it do?
I don't know. No good, I guess. I don't know.
I wish you'd leave me alone. I want to go away.
You can't, you know.
No, you wouldn't let me. And I don't want to go.
Judy, I tell you this, these past few days have been the first happy days I've known in a year.
I know because I remind you of her. And not even that very much.
No, Judy. Judy, it's you, too. There's something in you that...
You don't even want to touch me.
Yes, I do.
Couldn't you like me? Just me the way I am? When we first started out, it was so good. We had fun. And then you started in on the clothes. Well, I'll wear the darn clothes if you want me to. If you'll just like me.
The color of your hair.
Oh, no.
Judy, please, it can't matter to you.
If I let you change me, will it do it? I do what you tell me. Will you love me?
Yes.
All right, then I'll do it. I don't care any more about me.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into this idea. So just to sort of a recap to what I said in the intro about our coming together on this, I watched the Vertigo and I put it on my Letterboxd, and you reached out to me and you sent me a link to your cinematograph post on it. I read through it and I thought it was extremely interesting. Not that I agreed with everything that you say, but that of course, there's room for analysis and differences of opinion there, and that's okay. But I liked it enough that I reached out to you. And by virtue of spam filters, my email sat in your spam filter for a little while. Totally not your fault. And once you found it, you replied and we set this up. And I'm so glad that we did, because I like having different voices on this show. Every once in a while, have a perspective that is not fully in the psych mainstream. And I think that's okay. And also not from a psychology instructor. I think that's useful after 6.5 years of doing this show, 100+ episodes, that, we got to have some difference makers, some differing views, some interesting takes, if you will, on films that I think are useful in a teaching sense outside of just film history or other sort of film studies type courses where you could get into the meat and like where you could get deep down into the bone in this movie beyond, I'll say, just the sort of surface level psych concepts that some films offer. So, Daniel, if you will, could you give us your thesis for your analysis of this movie? And I think we'll go from there because I found it to be quite intriguing, and that's why I wanted to have you on. But I think we can dissect it as well. So if you want to give us, like, I don't know where else you've put it. I'm really only referring to the blog post that you linked me. So if you've talked about it elsewhere, that's totally cool too. You can bring that up. But what is your thesis about like the deeper meaning of this movie?
Okay. Well, most criticism of Vertigo kind of dances around the edges of what I'm going to say. And I don't disagree with it wholesale. The thing is that people talk about Scotty's obsession, right? Which is obvious enough.
Sure.
None of the critics that I've seen pinpoint exactly what the obsession is.
Okay.
What does he want? He wants Madeline, but what is it that he wants in Madeline?
Okay.
Why does he want her? And the idea that Hitchcock that runs through Vertigo is in almost every single detail of the film from beginning to end. And that actually makes it difficult to lead in because where do you start if it's everywhere? You could start at the beginning, but that's not necessarily the most logical place. So let me start with the music.
Okay.
Because this is where a friend of mine, a late friend who passed away 7 years ago, he first realized that Vertigo was something much more than people took it for.
Okay.
This friend of mine is a great opera fan, and Hitchcock was too. Hitchcock was a fan of Wagner. And the score, Bernard Herrmann's score, is often likened to Wagner's music. The kiss in the Empire Hotel is probably the most famous moment when the two of them come together. She's finally transformed herself back into Madeline, the blonde hair, the suit, everything.
Yeah.
And the room has a green haze. It's a remarkable scene. And the music is always likened to the Liebestod theme from Tristan und Isolde by Wagner. But my friend Larry, he noticed that the chord, the Tristan chord that highlights the kiss, is not unique to Tristan and Isolde. It also appears in Parsifal on the mother's kiss. The sorceress Kundry kisses the hero Percival from the Arthurian legend.
Okay.
Right? And she tells him that it's a mother's kiss.
Ah, okay.
When you look at it this way, it starts to unlock a thread that runs through Vertigo.
Okay.
Because the story begins with the loss of a father figure, right? The two cops running across the roof at the beginning are strangely aged for their role. Why would you put two middle-aged cops or almost elderly cops on an athletic beat like that? But there they are, chasing a criminal across the San Francisco rooftops, and the older one falls to his death.
Okay.
In the next scene, you have Midge counseling Scotty. She says, "You're a big boy now." And when you look at him this way, the character, Scotty Ferguson, is really a boy in a man's body.
Okay.
Sneaking around, peeping on Madeline, looking at her from a distance like a child following his mother. You see the same thing in Psycho when Norman Bates peeps into the other motel room. And when you look at it this way, again, it's hard to say where to begin, but look at the names. Madeline begins with Ma, right? Midge, her real name is Marjorie, also begins with Ma, but he won't call Midge by her real name, whereas he'll continue to call Judy Madeline, even though he knows that's not her name.
Right.
So apparently, despite Midge's remarks that Mother's here when she nurses him in the hospital, or Scotty's remark, you're too motherly. Those are just Hitchcock being coy. It's Hitchcock leading the audience in the wrong direction.
Okay.
Leading you off track. The real mother figure is Madeline.
Right.
And Gavin Elster, who knew Scotty in college, probably knew what his mother was like, picked Madeline, not because she looked like his wife, he picked Judy, but because she looked like Scotty's mother. And when he's introduced, he falls in love right away.
So you're saying your argument for the deeper meaning beyond just saying Scotty has a Freudian obsession is his Freudian obsession is about his mother. And so this runs into an Oedipal obsession.
Right. Now, Hitchcock was very much a Freudian.
Yes.
In the movie Spellbound, he introduced Freudian ideas to the general public.
Yep.
You see it in Psycho, you see it in Marnie. It's obvious in those movies.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the Oedipus complex is not exclusively Freud's either. It's also there in Shakespeare and ancient Greek tragedy, in
Sure.
plays and literature throughout history. So,
right. I would say that Freud, in much of his works, cribbed from a lot of historical documents, historical figures, historical stories to sort of piece together his psychoanalytic theory. That, I think, is much a part of Freudian theory as, Jung going, well, it's not reverse Oedipal, it's an electrocomplex. And so, so sort of playing into additional literary figures, and Freud resoundingly rejected that. He was like, absolutely not. I don't like that phrase. I don't like that term. Sort of added to his rivalry with Jung at the time. But I mean, the point still stands as far as like Hitchcock using those ideas in these films, right?
Right. I think it's probably important to put this in a little bit of context.
Okay.
Because for this wasn't some academic exercise for Hitchcock.
No, really? Are you sure?
I think he in Vertigo, you can see that there's such a he genuinely believed that there's something dirty about Scotty, something deeper than villainous about him. It goes back, I think, to his spy films of the 1930s.
Okay.
When one of them is Lady Vanishes, which, by the way, has intimations of an electric complex. The girl is going to marry a lord named Lord Charles Fotheringale, and she gives up this
That's a bit on the nose.
A bit on the nose, right. But it kind of slips in. It's
sure.
passed off very quickly and people don't notice it.
Sure.
But in the 1930s, Hitchcock rose to fame on a series of spy films. And all of them involved sort of brewings of totalitarianism on the continent that were threatening the home front in England. And this is before anybody in Britain was necessarily worried about Hitler or the Nazis.
Okay.
This is like 34, 35, 36, and so on.
Yeah.
Before anything came to violence.
Right.
And so he was warning the British about the stirrings of fascism across the Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And he was wrapping the warning in the palatable coating of entertainment. And then when the war is over and Hitchcock continues making films, he kind of switches, but he's doing the same thing. He's warning the world about the psychological pitfalls that threaten democracy from within.
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking at the tendencies, in particular, the juvenile sexuality, the immaturity that results in persons who wish to be special. Hitchcock always extolled the ordinary. He wanted his film, for example, Shadow of a Doubt, is almost an ode to the ordinary American family.
Okay.
And is threatened by an uncle who comes in from the East in the direction of Europe, by the way, which is this is made during the war.
Okay.
And the daughter of the family has a kind of crush on her uncle. Again, just incest. Underplayed, but still there.
Okay. So this is sort of like part of Hitchcock's broad oeuvre, right? That he sort of inserts this over a few decades, right? 30s, 40s, and 50s, that he is inserting these ideas. To bring it back to your thesis here, because I kind of want to explore the obsession a little bit more and the mother and aspects of Vertigo that sort of hit this point home for you. So you mentioned the music, which, if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss. And I think that for me, that's probably a miss for me, because I'll tell you, when I read it and when I read your piece and I read that, it's he's the obsession is not just this woman. It is this representation of the woman as his mother, which, okay, I'll bite. But I think the hang up for me when I was reading it was where are the mother vibes? I guess I missed them, or for the casual viewer, they are going to pass them by because they are either are coy, Hitchcock being coy. Now, of course, you could argue that some filmmakers make films for themselves, okay, whereas other filmmakers just make popcorn movies for other people, and both are fine, both are art, both serve a purpose. But to me, it felt like they were too subtle of clues. Right. They were hidden from understanding, and I think to go back to your earlier point about talking about aesthetics, media aesthetics, in the course you're teaching this semester, and the point you were making about ambiguity, I kind of just, it seems like Hitchcock made it too ambiguous, right? So we end up focusing on the wrong thing. So sort of as a counterpoint to, and not really a counterpoint, I'm just sort of like what you have said are sort of more obvious readings of the movie, right? So for me, the main Freudian idea is repression, and that's what I grabbed onto, that the vertigo is a symptom, right, or an outcome of a traumatic event, the rooftop chase scene that we just talked about, right? He never processes that emotional trauma, and then, psychoanalytic theory is all about the subconscious. And this probably plays into your idea as well, as far as the Oedipus complex is concerned, right? The subconscious then has a field day with being able to just point the person in various situations that are probably maladaptive and unhealthy. And right. I think we could both agree that a lot of the things Scotty does in this movie are both maladaptive and creepy or unhealthy, right? So jumping into the San Francisco Bay, yeah, he was trying to ostensibly save someone, but that's sort of ambivalent suicide ideation right there. Like, we both could die if I do this, because
right. Although she's acting,
she is
in that scene.
But even still, San Francisco Bay is nothing to be trifled with.
No, it's not.
Even at Fort Point,
at ground level.
Yes,
right.
Even at where they were, nothing to be trifled with. The currents are crazy. It's super cold. Yeah, it's not a good idea. And so if you know anything about San Francisco, which I consider to be a character in and of itself in this movie as well, you see that he's doing all of these things. He's also like falling in love with someone's, at this point, he thinks someone's wife.
Right.
So,
right.
He's got some problems. And so my reading of it is the repression angle, and that would be supported, so to speak, by the falling imagery, the spiraling imagery, and then of course his own behaviors of repetition and compulsion. So I think we're coming at what we see in the film from two different angles.
I think that Hitchcock was almost happy to be subliminal in the effect of his films.
Okay.
And the viewer doesn't necessarily have to go all the way to the mother.
Okay.
What he wants the viewer to appreciate is just how much there's something wrong with Scotty. And he constructs a kind of symmetry here that, for example, Madeline is obsessed with a female ancestor of hers.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense reflects Scotty, if he in fact is obsessed with a female ancestor of his.
Yeah, his mother, yeah.
But this is all by design. Gavin knew Scotty. He knew what kind of person he was. He knew what he was attracted to.
Okay.
There's another symmetry. When Scotty's courting Judy, he tells her, "You remind me of someone else."
Yeah.
And that is always problematic. The question is, when he's after Madeline, when he's chasing Madeline, does she remind him of someone else?
Okay, yeah. So I see your point. If he's saying that to Judy, he could easily have had the same thought.
I mean, it's the same desire. When he looks at Judy, he desires Madeline. But when he looks at Madeline, whom is he desiring?
Yeah.
And the idea of incest in Freud is not, it begins as something normal, that the mother is the template upon which desire is later laid over.
Yeah. I will. I'm gonna interject just really briefly to sort of jump in with some modern psych on this. The data on incest aversion in humans is so incredibly strong and has been for decades now that like Freud was completely off the mark. That does not. I don't want to have that distract you from your point, because we as a society, Freud was very powerful. Hitchcock, being a Freudian in name, would not have recognized that. So continue.
Just to clarify the point, I think I'd like to say that at least in Hitchcock's view of things, at least probably his understanding of Freud, it's not that the infant wishes to possess the mother sexually. It's that the bond with the mother is a kind of proto-sexuality that forms a template for adult sexuality. So it's not literal, that you literally wish to have sex with the mother.
It was literal in his writings. It was literal
in Freud's writings. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just trying to read Hitchcock's mind here.
Fair enough. That's fair.
But the idea of maturity in Hitchcock's films is that you have to get past this attachment. You have to, the man has to, in growing up, he has to shed this Oedipal attachment to see other women as human beings.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when Midge says, "You're a big boy now," in the next scene, he goes to Gavin Elster and he says that his acrophobia isn't a permanent physical disability. It just prevents him from going to the bar at the top of the mark. Well, who isn't allowed to go to a bar? A child isn't allowed to go to a bar.
Sure.
When he goes to the art gallery and she's sitting in front of a portrait of her great grandmother,
Carlotta Valdez. Yeah.
That's right. Everybody misses this, but he's standing against a portrait of a little boy.
Oh, okay. See, a little bit more of the subtlety that is out of the saliency, I would say, of the scene. But yeah, careful viewing on later viewing.
When she shakes him off, she goes into the McKittrick Hotel and loses him.
Mm-hmm.
Parse the name McKittrick. Ma, kid, trick. The mother plays a trick on the child. Hitchcock was like this. It sounds totally corny to us probably, but Hitchcock was like that.
Shouldn't you be sitting down?
No, I'm all right.
I was sorry to read about that thing in the paper. And you've quit the force. Is it a permanent physical disability?
No. It just means that I can't climb stairs that are too steep or go to high places, like the bar at the top of the mark. But there are plenty of street-level bars in this town.
Would you like a drink now?
No, I don't think so. No, it's a little early in the day for me. Well, I guess that just about covers everything, doesn't it? I never married. I don't see much of the old college gang. I'm a retired detective, and you're in the shipbuilding business. Now, what's in your mind, Gavin?
I asked you to come up here, Scotty, knowing that you'd quit detective work. But I wondered whether you'd go back on the job as a special favor to me. I want you to follow my wife. No, it's not that. We're very happily married.
Well, then...
I'm afraid some harm may come to her.
From whom?
Someone dead. Scotty, do you believe that someone out of the past, someone dead, can enter and take possession of a living being?
No.
If I told you that I believe this has happened to my wife, what would you say?
Well, I'd say take her to the nearest psychiatrist, or psychologist, or neurologist, or or maybe just the plain family doctor. I'd have him check on you, too.
Then you're of no use to me. I'm sorry I wasted your time. Thanks for coming in, Scotty.
Okay. I didn't mean to be that rough.
No, it sounds idiotic, I know. And you're still the hard-headed Scot, aren't you? Always were. You think I'm making it up?
No.
I'm not making it up. I wouldn't know how. She'll be talking to me about something. Suddenly the words fade into silence. A cloud comes into her eyes and they go blank. She's somewhere else, away from me, someone I don't know. I call to her, she doesn't even hear me. Then with a long sigh, she's back. Looks at me brightly. Doesn't even know she's been away. Can't tell me where or when.
Well, how often does this happen?
More and more in the past few weeks. And she wanders. God knows where she wanders. I followed her one day. Watched her coming out of the apartment. Someone I didn't know. She even walked a different way. Got into her car and drove out to Golden Gate Park. 5 miles. Sat by the lake, staring across the water at the pillars that stand on the far shore. You know, portals of the past. Sat there a long time without moving. I had to leave, get back to the office. When I got home that evening, I asked her what she'd done all day. She said she'd driven out to Golden Gate Park and sat by the lake, that's all.
Well?
The speedometer on her car showed that she'd driven 94 miles. Where did she go? I've got to know, Scotty, where she goes and what she does before I get involved with doctors.
Well, have you talked to the doctors at all about that?
Yes, but carefully. I want to know more before committing her to that kind of care. Scotty.
All right, I'll get you a firm of private eyes follower for you. They're dependable, good boys.
I want you.
Look, this isn't my line.
Scotty, I need a friend. Someone I can trust. I'm in a panic about this.
I'm supposed to be retired. I don't want to get mixed up in this darn thing.
Look, we're going to an opening of the opera tonight. We're dining at Ernie's first. You can see her there.
It's interesting because so Freud developed these latent sexual frustrations ideas in the very end of the 1890s, and he released them all on the Interpretation of Dreams, which came out in 1900, something like that. And so that's like that he burst out on the scene with this book. And so a lot of the stuff that actually we talk about with respect to psychological history and Freud in a psychology program stems from what he wrote in and around this time period, and most of it coming from On the Interpretation of Dreams. So I want to sort of stay on that for a second, because what I think Hitchcock is doing for Scotty is really playing on that last word of this book, dreams, right? And the powerful nature of the subconscious and how it plays, this is probably not the right phrasing, but plays subtle tricks, we'll say, on a person in getting us to, and I'm speaking as a sort of a psychoanalyst here, that's not my training, plays tricks on us to have us make a specific decision or interpret an interpersonal dialogue in a particular way or guide us to whom we are attracted. All of these subtle things. And I think that, and the reason why Freud called it On the Interpretation of Dreams is because he believed that dreams were the playground of the subconscious. And we actually have one of those sequences in this movie, right? We have sort of, 2/3 of the way into the movie, I think, somewhere around there.
I think a little shy of 2/3. Yeah.
We see Scotty in bed and he's tossing and turning, and then we have this like almost animated section of the movie. It's like 2 minutes or something like that of just different what looks to be hand-drawn animation things that are just going spirals. You and I were talking earlier. We were talking earlier about like the contortions face when I mentioned this when we were exploring James Stewart's acting range, and like this whole thing then brings about the remaining action of the plot. Like we go from this nightmare to the rest of the movie.
It's the break.
Yeah, it's the break in sort of the action, but it is a physical, on film, physical manifestation of this subconscious playground. So he's playing a lot with these Freudian ideas, putting this movie together.
Yeah, that scene to me is probably the weakest section of Vertigo, which is not to criticize that a movie has to stop and relax for a while every now and then, but it doesn't impart a whole lot of new information.
No.
To Scotty's case. If we're going to talk about dream, though, I think it's also interesting to talk about the word fantasy.
Okay, sure.
Because we have another scene in Vertigo, which is unreal, and it's the opening scene on the rooftops.
Okay.
And this is the scene that is often pointed to as the big flaw in Vertigo. The characters are running with this kind of exaggerated zeal across the roof. It's not very natural the way that they're running.
I attribute that to like they weren't actually running on rooftops.
That's part of it. Yeah, it was staged badly, and then what happens is unbelievable. His partner falls down, and he's left hanging there. How does he get out? He's going to hang on there until he's rescued?
Yeah. Who else is there? You're right.
Nobody ever bothers to answer this question, and Hitchcock didn't bother because he knew that there's no good answer to this. But rather than seeing this as a flaw, I think the answer to this scene is that it's not meant to be real. It's meant to be a juvenile fantasy. He's an action hero in this. He's playing a police officer. Mm-hmm. This is a boy's wish to be chasing a bad guy across the roofs. Mm-hmm. And then it's also his wish to lose the father.
Okay.
Which frees him to pursue the mother, which is what will happen in subsequent scenes.
Yeah, even though we don't know anything about this guy who dies.
Only that he's strangely old for a cop.
Yeah. So I guess my follow-up question for you, Daniel, on all of this is the role of the, ostensibly as a viewer we see, the role of the acrophobia, the fear of heights, and the symptom that is felt by many acrophobics, which is what we call vertigo. So what is the role of the title then? What is the role of, which is an amazing advancement in cinematography, well,
Yeah.
of course, used in the dolly zoom, used in countless films after this to great effect. My favorite, of course, would be Jaws, but many other films have used this effect to either do the dolly zoom feature of it or just show vertigo. Either one works. So what's the role of the acrophobia and the vertigo in this deeper meaning?
I would actually separate the acrophobia from the symptom from the vertigo.
Okay.
The vertigo is kind of correlative to the ecstasy of sexual release.
Okay.
But it also is a symptom that is connected with the eye. Remember, the opening titles go from the mouth to the eye, which match the infant's development from the oral connection to the breast up to the gaze.
Mm-hmm.
The acrophobia is characterized in Midge's apartment when he steps up that little stepladder. And it's like he's a little boy. He's taking a step. He's taking on an adult's point of view, going one step higher, going another step higher. Mm-hmm. And it's like growing up, but he's afraid to grow up. He's afraid to reach the height of an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, going back to the eye that connects it to the myth of Oedipus, Oedipus blinds himself. At the end of Vertigo, he stands on the precipice of that church tower, and his vertigo is cured. But that is, in the Oedipus myth, the point of self-awareness, the point where Oedipus will do violence to himself. The movie doesn't take you that far, but takes
sort
you
of
to the
metaphorically, the vertigo is the clawing out of the eyes.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, something like you might say that.
Okay. I'm just making connections here to this idea. To me, it's you make a strong case for all of this, and I think for a lot of people, especially my colleagues who are, and I'm no fan of Freud for all of his stuff outside of what he wrote. He was not a very good dude. So like, with my colleagues and friends who are also non-Freudians in many more ways than one, when I bring up movies on this show that sort of have this Freudian aspect to it, and of course this is a Hitchcock film in a recent string of Freudian movies. So the last episode that I did had some Freud themes in it. And then I recently did, toward the end of last year, I did with Brooke Cannon, who shows a lot of Hitchcock films in her psych and film course, as well as she's a clinical psychologist, and as well as she talks about a lot of Hitchcock films in her like upper division clinical based class, where they go into quite a bit more detail on psychoanalysis and psychodynamic theory. So, I've been mentioning Freud a lot, and so it comes up with my friends like, why do you have movies about Freud? And it's like, well, a lot of film history overlaps with like the dominance in clinical theory from psychoanalysis, and Freud is at the center of it. It wasn't until like the 1950s, but not even the 1960s, when more humanist psychology started appearing and sort of pushing back against the ideas about psychosexual development and the role of repression, defense mechanisms, all of these kinds of things. So you're talking about a movie, and of course the guy, we've talked about the guy a lot, but you're talking about a movie that came out in 1958 when so many people were like gaga over understanding more about their lives from this perspective. And I just find it very intriguing that you have a movie that represents what a lot of modern psychologists find extremely problematic about these ideas, and how long that they were allowed to sort of fester within psychology. And modern psychology is moving away, has moved away, of course, and focuses more on the trauma and what comes from the trauma itself. And so it's so interesting that Hitchcock did this not only so directly. I know it's subtle, but I feel like it's direct. And then also at the same time, it has to be subtle.
He wasn't always so subtle. In Strangers on a Train, which you've seen, the villain is clearly an Oedipal case. His scene with his mother is so unnaturally affectionate. He hates his father.
Yep.
And the problem that Hitchcock realized that Robert Walker's Bruno in Strangers on a Train was too much of a psychological freak. He wanted to talk about the edible undertones that are in the ordinary male that threaten the fabric of society. Because if a man carries the edible germ into adulthood, he'll use women as objects.
Mm-hmm.
He'll wish to be something grandiose or special, and that can undermine a democracy. All these things are woven through Hitchcock's films.
Yeah.
So he wanted to create a character who was just as edible as Bruno Antony from Strangers on a Train,
Mm-hmm.
but wasn't such a psychological freak. So he's James Stewart. And
Yes.
he tried this he tried it in Rear Window. Rear Window is a story, but have you seen that?
Yes.
He's looking across his courtyard at all these everything across the courtyard confirms his fear of marriage. Either it's an unhappy spinster, it's a sexually exhausted newlywed,
Mm-hmm.
or it's this old bickering couple.
Yeah. Okay.
And he has it out for the old man across the courtyard. He's going to be the villain.
Yeah.
And before there's any evidence, he imagines a murder case.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Rear Window, the plot is a little bit implausible, and Hitchcock thought he could do better, so he makes Vertigo.
So so he makes Vertigo, and you said at the start of our conversation that he then makes Psycho, and it's even more on the nose. Explain what you mean about that. I know this is not a episode about Psycho, but I think it's relevant.
Well, yeah, the arc is of increasing subtlety until Vertigo. Vertigo is so subtle that nobody got it.
Yeah.
And he was so bitter that people didn't appreciate Vertigo that he went and made Psycho. He said, okay, now they can't miss it, and they still missed it. The problem is that with both Vertigo and Psycho, there are two maladies, right? And there's the acrophobia and the incest. In Psycho, there's the incest, but there's also the psychosis. And everybody looks at the psychosis.
Yes. I mean, if I were to do a podcast episode about Psycho, and I have not, and it's on the list somewhere, then yeah, it would be the fact that, you know, he thinks his mother's alive and telling him to do stuff, and that's classic psychosis, hallucinations, delusions.
Right. You can see the Oedipus in Psycho, and you're not going to miss it, but it's just kind of people take it as background.
Mm-hmm.
But the two films are very similar. They both a woman goes missing halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
They both open the same way, with rooftops of a Western U.S. city, followed by a scene an intimate scene in an apartment, and then a ground floor office, and then driving. Yeah, there are other parallels too.
Hi, Johnny.
Hi.
Did you get my message?
I did indeed.
I'll get you a drink.
Okay. Since when do you go around slipping notes under men's doors?
Since I stopped being able to get them on the phone. For a man who has nothing to do, you're certainly a busy little bee. Where do you go these days?
Just wandering.
Where?
Roundabout.
Oh.
What was this desperate urge to see me?
All I said in my note was, where are you? Doesn't sound very desperate to me.
I detected a little undercurrent.
I just thought that if I gave you a drink and fed you some dinner, you'd be so grateful you'd take me to a movie.
Oh, that's fair enough. What do we talk about at dinner?
Oh, this and that.
What I've been doing?
Well, if you want to. Naturally, we won't talk about anything you don't want to talk about.
Naturally.
What have you been doing?
Wandering. What have you been doing? Thank you, dear.
Oh, I've been having a wonderful time. I'm going back to my first love, painting.
Well, good for you. I always said you were wasting your time in the underwear department.
Well, it's a living. But I'm really excited about this.
What is it, still life?
No, not exactly. You want to see?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I thought I might give it to you.
Oh?
Johnny.
No, that's not funny, Mitch.
Johnny.
No.
Johnny, I just thought...
No. Let's make that movie some other night.
Johnny? Oh, Marjorie, would you... Fool! Idiot!
So if we go back to Vertigo and we pin down what it is that the idea is. So we have a man who is fantasizing about being an adult in sort of like a 1930s, 1940s action copper kind of way. Film. One thing that I read about this film's history is that some people want to categorize it as a film noir, but then others, I think, rightly point to the missing qualities that of film noir. But essentially, that idea plays into the role of this fantasy that you're describing at the beginning of the movie, because film noir is filled with a bunch of hero cops.
Right. I mean, Hollywood has always had sold audiences hero fantasy.
Yeah.
Ride along with this film and pretend that you're a hero.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hitchcock doesn't want to do that. He wants to challenge the audience.
Did he think his audience was more astute than they actually were /are?
Well, I don't know, but after Vertigo, he probably realized that they weren't all that astute because everybody missed it. And that's why he made Psycho. He did make the same point with the cudgel.
Yeah. I mean, you have to wonder where he went wrong I don't think audiences have ever changed, to be honest with you. It always rests in my mind with the filmmakers misunderstanding who their audiences are and always have been. And so it seems to have taken him a while to figure out that the people that were consuming his films, most of them being in the Anglosphere, right? We'll just make the assumption that most of his movies were consumed by Americans and British people, right? Maybe an odd translation here and there into French or German or something like that. But the vast majority of people watched it as an English language film. And I don't think the American film audience has ever been an astute enough audience. And that's... I am part of that audience to listeners who are yelling at me thinking that I'm making fun of American audiences. Let's be real.
Right. But this is where criticism can play a role, and critics can, if they care about the film enough, they can open people's eyes to something deeper.
Yes, and I think it takes to be a good film critic, it takes a considerable amount of understanding of artistic expression, but also media literacy, and it's hit and miss all the time. From decade to decade, it's hit and miss. But I think your general audience isn't going to read film reviews, and I think that's where Hitchcock may have missed the mark with this one. If it was a different idea, I shouldn't say different idea. If it was a different approach, and he was maybe less subtle about it, then maybe critics would have been on board in that time period, right? The contemporaneous reviews. And maybe that would have changed people's outlook. But at the same time, I want to say that Protestant UK and Protestant America would have likely have been very aghast at the
insinuations.
The insinuations of incest and children having sexual desires for their parents, etc.
Yeah. Most of my understanding of Freud is filtered through Lacan, I think, who, as I understand it, did not believe that he should be taken quite so literally as you
yes.
say. And that might explain why Freud is more popular in the humanities than in psychology
today.
Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think there has been a distillation from academic psychology and psychological science to other disciplines where his ideas, and of course, let's not forget his contemporary of Carl Jung being very integral to an understanding of how stories are told, and the 12 archetypes and all sorts of different things related to personality that are just not backed up by the science, but breathe with fresh life in these other places. Yeah, absolutely.
The wonderful thing about Vertigo is how there's a double meaning in everything. You look at, for example, Gavin Elster's line, Scotty, do you believe that someone out of the past, someone dead, can enter and take possession of a living being? now you read that with a different set of eyes or different ears. And
different ears. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy, like reconceptualizing. After I read your piece, I did not get a chance to watch the movie again. I think I will after our conversation, just to sort of take every little bit. It's like, right, everything in a film is intentional. Every bit of audio, every bit of imagery, every bit is intentional. And I think it's pretty critical to go back and with this sort of fresh understanding to go back and give this another go with your ideas fresh in my mind.
Could I throw a couple other details out there?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Yeah. After Madeline dies, or she's thrown off the tower, he keeps looking for her in older women. He sees her, the woman in the courtyard of the apartment building coming for the car, and it's an older woman. He sees the woman in Ernie's restaurant. She's older.
Yep.
And then he finds Judy. The names Ferguson comes from a Celtic warrior hero, Fergus MacRoich, whose wife, the queen, deposed him from the throne in favor of his son. This is Fergus' son, the one who's favored by the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin corresponds to Gawain in the Arthurian legend, who introduces Parsifal to the Knights of the Round Table, where he will eventually come to meet Kundry.
Mm-hmm.
You have Pop Liebel, the proprietor of the Argosy bookshop, Father Love, Pop Liebel, who's the link to the past.
Yeah.
The past plays such a metaphorical role throughout Vertigo. It's like some sort of absolute, you should capitalize the word past as the something that when in the final journey, when they go back to the mission, he says, I'm going to be free of the past finally, and I'm take you back into the past once more.
Yeah.
That, of course, being, for Hitchcock, the psychological past, the early childhood. That's where he's traveling, back to childhood.
Interesting.
And notice how the settings all harken to the past. Gavin tells Scotty that his wife would go and gaze at the portals of the past in Golden Gate Park.
Mm-hmm.
The redwoods are ancient
right.
trees. They go back to the past.
Mm-hmm.
The Mission Dolores, the San Juan Bautista, the Argosy bookshop, Gavin's office, the clubhouse, Ernie's restaurant, the McKittrick Hotel, the apartment building, they're all antique settings that point again and again to this greater past, this idea that hovers over everything. I think I've listed all the main points here.
Okay, so I think you've got a strong case. Now, I'm curious, Daniel, if this is something that is different from the rest of the film analyses on this film. Like, does this constitute sort of outside of the box, well, maybe not anti, sort of, I'm trying to think of the wording here.
I don't think it's iconoclastic. I don't think
that's
that. Yeah, I don't know. I run into some resistance with this idea, but no convincing resistance that I've seen.
Okay.
You can disagree with Freud, okay, but
and I will.
That Hitchcock wanted to put this in there.
Yeah, I
think the evidence is fairly overwhelming. There's just so much that points to it,
and I think both of those things can be true at the same time, right? Like, sometimes when you do film analysis, you have to take a historicist perspective and sort of place yourself there at the time period. And if you've got a guy who is so into this stuff, and let's be honest, people in his circle were into it too. It was mainstream, it was pop, it was the rage. And so, as much as he was a fan himself and a close reader himself, he was getting reinforced from others in his circle. His producers, his other director friends, other studio heads, friends, everyone was just reinforcing all of these ideas. And I mean, if you needed to see a therapist for any reason, it was likely someone who was of a psychoanalytic or psychodynamic perspective in this time period. And of course, before that as well, right? Because we don't take people in isolation. We take them as a sum of their experiences. So, for the past 3 decades prior to that, there was growth and growth and growth in these ideas, and they just got reinforced not only in himself as a close reader, but from his circle. So you take that bit, and you take the fact that these days we can look at it with a different set of eyes and be like, well, Freud didn't really have super great ideas from a psychological sense, but they are in this movie.
What I see that I think Hitchcock got from Freud is that before Freud, I think there was this idea that emotions just happen spontaneously. And Freud comes along and he says that there's a logic to our emotions.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And whatever the dynamic of the Oedipus complex might go astray, Vertigo has a logic to its emotions. And Hitchcock was fully in command of that logic, I think.
I want want to thank Daniel Kieckhefer for joining me to discuss Vertigo. Before we say goodbye, Daniel, is there anything you'd like to plug? Maybe give a little bit more information on the cinematograph?
Sure. My website is the-cinematograph. That's with a PH.
I will link that in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So cinematograph.com, and
Right.
they'll have that on there. What other films have you analyzed on your site in, I don't know, recent weeks, recent months?
Oh gosh, I've just done a couple of Iranian films, recent Iranian films by Mohammad Rasulov and one by
interesting.
Jafar Panahi.
Okay.
I do about a new review every week or so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I'm up to about 230 almost.
Do you have a selection criteria? Like, what makes you choose? So I'm just curious. So it's quite the, I mean, you've only mentioned a few, but like you've got Vertigo on there, but then you've got these Iranian films. So what leads you to choose?
It's all over the place. Any film
It sounds like it.
Yeah, any film I see that I feel has something to unpack that isn't necessarily obvious.
Okay.
That has a kind of integrity that I respect.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work with it and try to see it with fresh eyes, see it in a way that hasn't been seen before. And if I can, then I'll write about it. Okay,
excellent. And Secrets of Cinema, is that available at anywhere you get books, or?
You can buy it on Amazon, but don't. It's everything that. No, really, I bought back the rights to the book and I put everything online. I've rewritten it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 100 films you've put on your website?
It's all there.
Okay.
It's all there. And it's better on the website. It's rewritten. It's improved.
Okay.
I continue to improve it. So.
Interesting. Buying back the rights. Wow. Okay. More power to you. When did that book get released?
2019.
Okay. And so you then flipped it around in a few short years.
Right. About 3 years later. And
yeah.
I've more than doubled it. And it's, so just go to the website, forget the book.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
There are 15 Hitchcock essays on my site, and a lot of them reinforce what I said about Vertigo.
Yeah.
You could go through them and chart Hitchcock's thinking.
Okay. Well, perfect. Thank you again for joining me, Daniel.
Thank you too.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Until the next one, thanks for listening.